we now have much more prosecution of victimless crimes.
Oh, absolutely.
And things that had absolutely no
and
bearing on
every
that.
time they increase the police, every time they increase the amount of prosecutors, the amount of courtrooms, law is a business on all sides, on the defense side and on the government side. It's a business, and they want that business to keep going. And if crime goes down, crime goes down, but sometimes you see that there's still, the courts are just as full. As many people are getting arrested. You'll see this. Violent crime statistics go down, but there's still a lot of it. They just start arresting people for other things. They start finding other things for people to do. You got a spy satellite going on there. Maybe you'll find, maybe you'll see Mr. Jones is growing a couple of marijuana plants in his backyard. So now we can arrest him for that. And so you're going to just have more and more and more arrests. And
I'm thinking of a point that you brought up, Jeff, and that is that people will be hassled and charged with stuff. And, you think, well, if you're innocent, you'll fight it through. It has taken me a long time to learn two things about the justice system, and I can't believe that I didn't know them already. And one is that all the people in the justice system will lie to get a prosecution under their belt. I never even could have believed that. So that there are plenty of innocent people in prison, unlike what we're told that, they all say they're innocent. And the second is, the judges are very conservative people.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why this didn't, this is my naivete. Yeah, so that it's very hard to get protection of individual rights out of many of these judges who are more concerned about crime than about the Constitution.
Well, I can tell you, we're veering off the topic of the ACLU, but the way the system works is, would shock people. The way you become a judge, the influence the district attorney's office has over decision-making that judges have. And obviously, there are many judges who are outstanding and are fair and honest. But, I got to say this. I do not, in the end, I have to say this, I don't blame the district attorney's office. I don't blame the police. I don't blame the judges. I hate to say this, I blame the public. Because in this state and nationally, the same thing's always true. And I say this sometimes, clients come into my office because I'm an attorney, and they say, I can't believe it, I'm being charged with this crime, it's a minor crime, or the police didn't do this, or I don't understand, how can that evidence be allowed at the charge? And I have to say to them the same thing. Almost every year there are elections when you think about it on a local level.
Yeah.
Every year people run for office. Have you ever heard the candidate come up and say, well, I think that there has not been enough rights given to citizens accused of crimes. That's what criminal defendants are. They're citizens who are accused of crime.
Right.
Well, no. The only people who ever get elected are the people who say, we want to be tougher on crime, the war on crime. Well, the fact of the matter is, it's hard to believe, because there is some crime. There really isn't that much crime in the United States. I know it's a really strange thing to think about. There's a very high rate, there is a very high murder rate in certain parts of urban areas. But compared to other countries, the United States has a very low crime rate.
But you're talking blue-collar crime. I'll bet you on the white-collar crime.
Yeah, but there's some of that.
Come in a lot higher there. If you include Wall Street, for example, in your sample.
If you include that, there would be more crime. But that's not what any of these
no, of course not.
These
that's
things
not
that
what
people
think
think
mean
of.
By crime.
So we have this war on crime, and the war, like all wars, it has to find more victims. It's like a fire. And it has to keep going. It has to make more people criminals.
Well, here's a question to the ACLU. Now, could the ACLU as an organization help in the election of judges by making some way that citizens could know a little better judges' attitudes toward the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, for example?
That's a great question. Anybody got an answer to that one? Jim, have we been stumped? I think we've been stumped.
Got a panel of judges.
We try to be nonpartisan.
Yeah.
So do the judges say they are?
Well, if you can, judges run for, in a lot of states, the judges run for election. Sometimes they have opponents against them. For the ACLU, and we are a nonprofit, Section 4, though, because our donations are not tax deductible. And you have to be careful about getting in where you take a partisan position in an election.
But if you took an informative rather than a partisan,
like the League of Women Voters do, I don't really see that as a role for the ACLU. to
It's
get
hard
into
think of
elections.
Who could help us choose? Who could help us be more aware of because you know, people like us
But like I said,
don't
it's
run
not
into
the
the legal
judges.
system.
It's not the judges. People do. People do. I mean, I'm sounding so dark here, but I mean, it really is true. I think people do know sometimes. I don't necessarily believe that the wool's been pulled over people's eyes. I think they know, but a certain value, like you were talking about before, that has been a traditional American value, has been ground down over the past few years. But for example, in the state of California, I'll just give the example in the state of California. We have in California a Bill of Rights in our own Constitution. Our courts, California courts, had consistently interpreted our protections under search and seizure and other issues greater than the federal Supreme Court had for the federal constitutional's Fourth Amendment protection against search and seizure. The people of the state of California ran to the ballot box to change that. Okay, you remember?
I don't remember.
They did. It was one of the, I think I'm talking right now about Proposition 8. There was also another Proposition 115, and people actually voted to decrease their rights. And it's really troubling that people, you know, when we talk about the American Civil Liberties Union, the way people say, the American Civil Liberties Union, as Jim said, all we're trying to do is defend the Bill of Rights.
Against the citizens.
Well, sometimes, or just against, sometimes against people not understanding. We live in a free society, you know?
Okay, with that arguable assertion, we're going to take a small break, and we'll come back to this discussion. I'm talking with Jeff Kravitz and Jim Updegraff. You're on Soapbox. Come back in just a minute.